is Keith Moore here at the Mayflower with Michael Kelly from the Federal Board of Reserves. And you just did a session, Michael, that was very impressive to me, having been in the acquisition world for about 12 or 13 years. Can you explain to us a little bit about the Federal Reserve and how it's made up, and a little bit about your session today? Thank you so much.
Sure. The Federal Reserve System is composed of the Federal Reserve Board, which is who I work for, and we're in D.C., and the 12 district banks, which are spread around the country. The board's considered government, the banks are considered commercial. Because of that, we don't mix our procurements, we each have separate procurement functions. The banks do their own procurement locally, but then they also have the National Procurement Office and FRIT, which are headquartered in Richmond, that buy products for all the banks where they have a common need. And we oversee the banks, and we look at how they do, some of our groups look at how they do procurement, but ours are separate. All right.
And so your presentation really highlighted the difference between the FAR regulation and the latitude that the board has, and I find that not only fascinating, it also brings to question how many contractors really know about how to do business with the Federal Reserve Board, and what the Federal Reserve Board does. What's your thoughts on that?
Many companies have no idea.
Yeah, right.
In fact, a lot of people have no idea who we are.
Right.
Now, if I say, Greenspan or Bernanke, then they say, oh yeah, I know who they are.
Right.
Oh, that's you guys. But we'll actually go to a diversity conference and people say, why are you here? What are you doing? They think we're a company. They don't understand that we're the central bank of the United States and what we buy or don't buy. And once they hear that we're government, then they assume we're under the FAR and we get appropriated funds. We're not. Because we get no appropriated funds, we're not under the FAR, but we are a government agency, so we do follow a lot of government regulations, like 508 compliance, Service Contract Act, those kinds of things. But we have more freedom in the actual procurement process because we have our own policies and procedures. We're not forced to follow the FAR regulations. So that's a big help.
And that's actually, in this contracting environment, a very welcomed differentiation. I mean, of course, between fiscal cliff and sequestration and budget cutting, and some people saying that we have a do-nothing Congress, the Federal Reserve Board is definitely outside of the bounds of that, but yet it can drive the economy for especially small businesses and grow and create jobs. You're actually a conduit and a facilitator like I've not seen before. Most people would say you're either from Department of Treasury, understand that, but you're not. FDIC, don't really understand FDIC, but you're not FDIC. So just a little bit more on that from your perspective.
Well, the Treasury, we actually work with the Treasury. One of the interesting things is that we pay for the printing of the money. So the Treasury is responsible for it, for we print it. We actually have a whole separate budget that's not even part of the normal procurement process for that. So that's a cooperation between those two organizations, and of course we have some input into designing the money, things like that. That's not part of what I do. One of the interesting things is that we do, though, pay to have it shipped around the country. That is one of our responsibilities. But we also are linked to organizations like FDIC, control of the Treasury. These are the financial institutions in the country to help look at the financial strength and how things work, which is one of the reasons that we have a number of those here at this vendor fair, because we often have kind of the same needs and we're in the same family, you could say.
So last question, is it community development and community economic development? The banks, especially the regional ones, are so tied to that process of funding community projects and infrastructure and development. Can you explain either that that's not true, or that there is a direct link between even the Federal Reserve and what happens in the communities economically?
Well, certainly the board job is to have a strong economy, and we do different things about that, and that's really not part of what I do. That's in the paper all the time. The district banks, though, are not banks like you would think of. They're not giving out mortgages for homes and stuff like that. They're talking about distribution and oversight and these kinds of things. So they really don't function the same way. You can't put them in the same category as the local bank where you go and get a car loan.
Right.
All right. So that's really a different order of magnitude from what we do.
Okay, good. Well, Mike, this has been a tremendous learning experience. I know you have a second part to do. Is there any other functions that you play in terms of your role at the board?
Well, basically, I manage the procurement function. The people who do the actual work report to me.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to do, like with this vendor fair, is really outreach to different groups to educate them how to do business with us. That's beneficial to both of us, to all of us, and to look at planning ahead, looking ahead, how can we make business better for both of us and develop long-term relationships, and to train the small businesses, because much of what they learn in doing business with corporate organizations is actually the opposite of how government does business.
Right.
So it's a complex learning process, and that's what I'm trying in a lot of ways to do here.
Well, we appreciate you recognizing that it's complex and that you do want to break it down, and we're happy at Ogtv to be providing some of those services of being able to have your training sessions, distributed throughout on the internet and beyond. So thank you so much, and rest up, and we'll see you there. Thank you so much. This is Keith Moore here with the Mayflower Hotel at Federal Reserve Board Vendor Outreach for Small Businesses, and we're having just a great learning time. And it seems like it's every bit of 1,200 people here, and we're doing some matchmaking. We have different sessions, and we'll take you around further. And thank you so much. This is Keith Moore from Ogtv.